Charlie Kirk and the man who shot him, in a way, were struggling and failing in the same way.
Why can't we find common ground? There's another way to come at this whole thing.
All right, so we did a whole podcast, and like me and you often do, we began to just talk to each other, and I noticed that we talked about this idea called collusion a lot,
Yeah.
and I thought maybe we could help anyone who listens to this out by giving a definition of that before they're an hour into this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would help.
And so, do you kind of want to take the lead on that? If we're looking for like just a simple definition of like what we mean when we say the word collusion.
There's a challenge with that right away because any lawyer listening realizes that's a legal term, where the legal term means something like we conspired together in a way with a wink and a nod, never really saying what we're about, but we conspired to undermine the purposes of the law.
Right.
That's what the word is typically used the English language for.
Yeah. It's kind of a borrowed word that Terry picked because
Terry borrowed it because he was looking for language out there that was used, that an English word that would say people could recognize and say, "Oh, I know what he's talking about," just from that. And because he found there wasn't a word in the English language, so he now grabs this word, and he takes the word collusion because the idea that in the legal sense, the two people conspire together, they sort of orchestrate this. That's not what's going on with what we talk about in terms of collusion. But there is this aspect that it's so exact. It's so exact in terms of how it works and how each other responds to each other. It's almost that way.
It behaves as if they're working together. I often and they're not. They wouldn't say they are, but I often talk to people that you guys are doing a dance, that you're both participating in. And so anyway, so that's why we use that word. Do you want to tell us a little bit about like what it is, like when we're using that word?
Yeah. So one of the things that Dr. Warner observed when he was unpacking this idea about self-deception, when one person becomes self-deceived, they tend to provoke others to do the same. And so what helps is to begin to get an understanding how it works.
So self-deceive, like seeing others in a distorted way.
Seeing others and oneself in a distorted way, yes. So now I begin to see them less humane, more in a dehumanized way. They're less meaningful, they're less relevant, less important than I am. They matter less than I do.
And some of the phrases that we talk about would be seeing them in a self-deceived way. You would see them as an object instead of a person, with a heart of war instead of a heart of peace.
Yeah, there's a
lot of language around it.
There's this actually, the idea surfaced a little over 100 years ago with a man by the name of Martin Buber, Buber. He wrote a book called I and Thou, and he was a Jewish philosopher, thinker, theologian, and he made observation that we always stand in relationship with others in these two basic ways. Either I stand in relationship with you and you're an it to me, a thing, an object, an abstraction, a label, a diagnosis, okay? Or you stand before me as an I to a you. He used the word thou, but it could be translated you. So in our vernacular, it'd be you. So I to you, that you're equally human. You're as much person as I am, and you matter like I matter. So it doesn't make me disappear. It doesn't make you disappear. We're equally human. We have all kinds of differences, but when I'm seeing you, as a person,
right,
those differences connect us. They're interesting. Okay. But when I see you as an it, a thing or an object, some label, then those differences separate, or they use it to compare the differences, and they become weapons, tools.
Yeah.
So that's the idea of self-deception is we systematically can misunderstand what our life is, what we're experiencing, and what others are also.
And maybe to put this in less clinical terms, right? Typically, when I'm really mad at somebody, there's some component in there where I'm not seeing all of them. I'm not seeing them clearly.
Yeah.
And so, you know, self-deception can be these moments that we feel deep anger towards people we love.
Yeah.
Like, and that maybe there's more to it than that, but that at least gives like a very layman's.
I actually like that. And I can say to get the phrase again, I don't really see them as they are. I don't see their humanity.
You don't see all of them.
I don't see all of them. I see a
and,
little bit.
And the part that you do see, you're not seeing it in an accurate way. It's distorted for sure. I always like the phrase you amplify their mistakes, you minimize their qualities, and so you're distorting them.
Yeah.
Because you're building an argument against them. Once again, it turns kind of legal.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so from this place, we interact with others, and this is where collusion starts to build, correct?
Yeah. And usually one person sort of starts it, but quite frankly, it can be ongoing. So sometimes it helps to hear a story.
Okay.
You know, some simple example. And I know we've used one before.
You told Debbie's story of her being late.
Yeah, that which do you want to do the same one?
I don't mind if that's the one you're the most comfortable with, but if you have another one, it's really fine. Like I don't imagine. Oh yeah, I think that was great.
It'll be all right.
It's a great story. You're good at you've rehearsed that one well.
So I'll start here. I just use my initials. So here's Chris. Here's my wife Debbie. And the circumstance at the time was the company I was working for, Anasazi, was having a fundraising dinner to help with scholarships for the parents. And this had been planned for months. We had a national dignitary coming to speak. I'd let Debbie know about it for months. She's prepared. We bought her a new dress. We've got new shoes. She's going to look nice. And so I go home. She's known this. And I remind her that morning. So I go home to pick her up. And I get home and she's not ready. Okay. So I put that in here. So she's not ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So we got Chris and Debbie's not ready.
Debbie's not ready to go to this dinner. We're in Gilbert, Arizona. We're driving over to Scottsdale, good 45-minute drive. And so we need to leave at this time. She's not ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I am nearly instantly upset. I'm bugged. And if I were to describe her in those moments, it would be that she's unsupportive, she's inconsiderate,
selfish.
Yeah, that comes to mind.
It's just writing things for you.
Oh, inconsiderate, selfish, lazy. I'm bugged, and this is how I'm seeing her. So if I'm seeing her that way, this is what's going on with me emotionally, and that's the description I have with her. The question then becomes, what might I say or do in that moment? And if we had an audience here, they'd be tossing things out.
Right.
Someone would say, well, you could criticize her, you could point out her faults. Okay, I would write that in.
And maybe you would tell her, hey, we gotta hurry. Did you not know? Like,
there's this urge,
correct urge,
a little bit of correction,
but it also has this tone to it.
Yeah, there's a tone.
Now
my particular style is to pout, sulk.
Okay.
To be defeated.
I mean, you could also just be totally silent.
Yes. Don't have to say a thing. Just be silent.
But you're exuding a frustration in that silence.
Yes. It's just the leaks are enormous. It's all coming out.
There's a million ways for you to express all these feelings you have towards Debbie.
Oh, okay, kids. It's been fun with Mom today. Is there anything I could do to help, Debbie?
Possibly, maybe.
So it's interesting. Whenever I've taught about this far, the women, when we're saying I could yell at her, I could criticize her, I could point out her faults, I could be silently suffering. The women are they're already starting to be bothered by how I'm responding.
Yeah.
And someone might say, why don't you just ask her about her day? Now that's a really good suggestion. It's smart because it connects me with her, helps me figure out there's a context for this.
And it speaks to what we were saying just a minute ago.
Yes.
The women that you're teaching this to are trying to see Debbie.
They're already seeing Debbie. They probably they're mothers because
they get it.
They get it. They know that, oh my heavens, you got kids at home, right?
And they go, the fact that you don't even ask, why are you late? Well, now they think you're being a little inconsiderate.
Yes, they're already anticipating that. So
right.
A woman might ask me, but I also want to make a point here when they do it. I want to make a point that somebody could give me some behavior to do, something to say in this moment. Somebody, well, Chris, this would have gone better if you just had asked her how her day was. And I say, that's true. But remember, in this circumstance, I'm already upset. I'm already bugged. I'm already seeing her as an inconsiderate, selfish, unsupportive.
You're asking from a place where you see her in that way.
Yeah.
So no matter what you say or do, you're doing it from that place.
Yeah. So what comes out is, oh, how was your day, Debbie? Are little fires you had to put out? Maybe some emotions you couldn't really process. Yeah, that's usually the booster engine that puts somebody in orbit, right?
Yeah.
But then I want to ask this question. Given these things I might do, whose fault do I feel it is that I have to do them? And everybody goes, it's Debbie's.
Right.
Okay. So in other words, we're not saying it is Debbie's fault. We're saying from my point of view, my distorted point of view, my unclear point of view of Debbie, I think she's the one who's made me respond in these ways.
Right.
So I draw a big arrow across and put blame up there. So what's coming from me to Debbie is blame.
Mm-hmm.
So now I want to shift and go stand in her shoes and ask the question: how many of you here in our audience would think that Debbie would say, "Oh, Chris, this is so helpful. These are keen insights about my character flaws that I really need to get to work on"? How many think could say that straightforwardly, and how many think she might say that sarcastically, or might not say that at all, might have a different response?
It would take an impressive person to be accused of something and not be offended or think that that was unfair.
Yeah.
Well, she's being accused of being, really, it's a pretty negative picture. She's selfish. She's
ruining my evening.
She doesn't care about you.
I'm the clinical director and you're making me look bad. We're going to come in late.
You're hurting our family's income, like our well-being. And it's hard to receive that and not be defensive. Yeah. And not be offended.
Yeah. Now you can, and I've been around some people who can respond in a terrific way.
Yeah.
So if I ask the people in the audience at this point and say, well, how do you suppose Debbie is beginning to see me? And what's interesting is how fast they come out. And they'll say, well, you're impatient, you're a jerk, unhelpful. What a pain you are. And so I said, okay. And what emotions do you think Debbie might be having? And now they've got anger, they got upset, they got hurt. Okay, now notice this. If she's seeing me that way, and she's having those kinds of emotions going along with it, what might she now do?
Well, and one thing I always like to point out when I'm walking through this, one easy way to say what Debbie might be thinking and feeling is that she almost would look like a mirror of how you felt about her.
That's interesting. Say more about that. I think it
would be really easy. You came in, you got upset, you thought she was selfish, inconsiderate, and you were bugged.
Yeah.
Then you responded to her from that place, which invited her to do what? It doesn't mean she has to do it, but invites her for sure.
Yeah.
And it would be easy to see Debbie thinking you were selfish, inconsiderate, that she was now upset with you and bugged with you.
Yeah.
Like a mirror.
Yeah. So
she's now become and she sees you the way you see her.
Yeah. So that's actually really interesting because now we're both doing the same thing. Seeing the other as the problem. Now's the dance.
Now you're dancing.
Now we're in step, right?
Yes.
So I'll ask them, so how do you think she might respond if she sees me this way and feels this way? And they'll begin to tell me, well, she won't want to go. She'll slow down. She'll go to her room and cry, slam the door on you. And so let's say she does any of those things. Whose fault will she feel it is that she has to do any of those things?
Well, you were being rude.
You were being unhelpful, insecure, unsupportive, not family-minded jerk.
So we started with you thinking it's her fault, and now she thinks it's your fault.
That's right. So now to take it right into the self-deception piece, you could ask some questions about this, like, so who's being a problem up here?
Both of you.
Both of them. Now, if we have an audience of men and women, the women are going to want to say you, Chris.
Yeah, someone may pick a side.
Yeah.
Someone may say it was your fault. You
started this.
It's very childish, but it's you started it.
That's
and
right.
Maybe there's a fair assessment there, but at some point Debbie did join you.
Yes. That's right. And he pushed me first.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. So who's being a problem? We both are. We're both doing the same sort of stuff. Back to the mirror idea. So the next question is, so who needs to change? Both. If I want to be better, if I want to have a better evening, I need to change. If Debbie wants to have a better evening, Debbie needs to change, right?
Yeah.
But here's the self-deception question. Remember, one of the ways to think about the self-deception is I have a problem and I can't see it. Okay? So which one of us thinks that we're the one who needs to change here?
Neither. You're convinced the other person's the problem.
I'm sure it's her. She's sure it's me.
Yeah.
So who's likely to change?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Which is the stuckness of this. I also like the word powerless. Because we're in this painful place where we're very frustrated, angry. We feel like victims, right? Yeah. We're full of blame. But do we have any power to change that when we're convinced that you're the problem and I have nothing to do with it?
So in the early years, probably in the mid-90s, we adopted the idea of a box. And I like the idea because it's a constraint. I can't see beyond this. Mm-hmm. So now it could be a box, it could be a mindset, but it's me, right? It's right here on this edges of me. It's not out there.
It's the distorted way of thinking and seeing the world.
Yeah, I'm in this way of being in the world that is convinced it's her fault and that I'm innocent here. Or doing the best I can around a wretch like this.
And if I try to sum up collusion, and I mean, you definitely need to walk through it to understand it on a deeper level. But for me, if I'm trying to sum it up into a single sentence, it's when I see others in a distorted way where I invite from them the very thing I say I don't like.
Yeah.
You came in and yeah. Yeah,
you can see that in this story. It's really clear. We might ask a question like, well, did I cause Debbie? Let's say she slows down.
Yeah.
Right? Which, incidentally, the moment she slows down, does that change my mind? Do I think she's supportive?
You've got more evidence that she's the problem.
Unsupportive. I can't believe it. Even right now, when I'm trying to help you be better, you're not.
She would say she's doing it in protest to how you're treating her.
I feel like I got Debbie right here.
I know. I can stick to her side. I've been on the receiving end of your guff before, Chris.
Yeah, for sure. So then a question we could ask is, so do I cause Debbie to slow down or does she have choices?
Yeah.
She has choices.
Yes.
Right? But am I innocent of her slowing down? Is she doing this in a vacuum?
I love the word invite.
Yeah.
You definitely invited her to join you in this negative place of responding to
I'd
each
even
other.
go so far as to use the word provoke, but not causal, but certainly,
Yes.
oh, it's coming at you.
Yes. Like it can be a very powerful, provoking invitation.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't make her do it.
That's hard to resist sometimes.
Oh, my heavens. Terry Warner one time describes this, because we do this multiple times in our life and it become habit for us. It's like we have these collusion hooks. And we're just going around. We're throwing them all the time. And someone else out there, they got theirs, and all of a sudden we hook up and away we go.
Yeah. Okay.
We might not even know them. They might be at the bus stop. They might be on the flight to San Diego.
Okay. So because we're throwing this in at the beginning, I don't want to spill too long. Does any really important parts to collusion? Do you think that's a good synopsis?
It's a very simple view of it.
Yes.
That we have two people mutually blaming each other.
Mm-hmm.
It tends to increase, sometimes accelerate. It can even go as far as physical violence with some individuals.
Mm-hmm. And it can exist, as we'll talk about in the podcast that we're throwing this in front of, it can even go as far as to entire groups of people,
yes,
or even nations can participate in collusion.
Yeah.
And that's scary.
Yeah.
And it was scary.
We talked earlier about seeing people as objects. And for me, the earliest and most basic forms of seeing people as objects are sexism and racism.
Yeah, okay.
That should give people a good handle on.
Yes, objectifying, not seeing as people, not seeing all of them, minimizing. Yeah.
So
okay. Awesome. I've been thinking about this, and I don't know how interested you are in this, but I've had kind of a journey with it. And so I think one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you about it is that I see a collusion in this story. But Charlie Kirk, how looped in are you on that?
All I know is what I picked up beginning last week.
And I'm kind of in a similar place, meaning I'm at work and someone says there was a shooting at UVU, which is 2 blocks from my house. Which I was like, well, I got to call my wife and tell her to lock the doors and be careful because there's somebody that's willing to do violence close to her, And I call her and luckily she's in Salt Lake and I'm like, okay, that's great, But it was interesting being that close to it. We had police knock on our door every day for 3 days asking if we had cameras, did we see anything, you know what I mean? But so I had a little journey with this experience. I mean, one, it was jarring that it was, I've heard of political shootings before and I always am like, oof, but this was our community and it happened very close
in
to
our
my
neighborhood,
house.
so to speak,
you know what I mean? And for some reason that hit a little bit more. And my journey with it, I had never ever heard of Charlie Kirk ever.
Nor had I.
Yeah, didn't know who he was at all. But my wife did, and had like some understanding of who he was. Apparently, he has started and was kind of the head of what I've heard people phrase as the biggest youth movement in America today. And it's very much like Christian based, and I do think that it is very connected to like right politics, right?
I don't know enough data. All I've heard is a whole bunch of people saying on both sides of that a variety of things. So I don't have data.
Well, and
or data that I know to be accurate about that.
And in trying to understand who he was a little bit because I became curious. I have watched 15 minutes of clips that he does. But his whole thing is he goes to college campuses and he says, ask me a question. Right?
Oh, this is the prove me wrong?
Prove me wrong. That's his thing. I couldn't remember the phrasing. That's him. Yeah. He's the prove me wrong guy. And he goes to college campuses and he has conversations or debates with students, right? So I'm like, okay, but then I got curious. Well, and it wasn't just that. A family member of mine posted something that I found very jarring. That was basically saying Charlie Kirk was an evil person. He was what did they say? A Nazi and a white supremacist, and it very hostile. It closed with like, I don't even know if very hostile.
Bad stuff.
Like really saying like good riddance, like that sentiment, right? So that gave me another kind of curiosity of, I mean, first of all, there's the kid who shot him, obviously, like
The alleged.
Yes. Well, somebody shot him.
Somebody shot him.
Yeah. But you're right.
Yeah.
Anyway, whoever shot him, somebody was angry enough to think, and the idea that I'm always playing with in my mind is that even the craziest thing that people do, they believe they are acting in their morals or pursuing their morals. And now they can be deceived in that, which we've talked about a lot.
That's right.
But nonetheless, what gets a person to a place where they're there? Now, I think that's what made me want to consume some of his material, because I know that somebody shot him. I'm hearing some people express sentiments that they think he deserved to be murdered. And I go, oof, you know what I mean?
I do.
And I go, how are people getting there? But then also, I think there was 2,000 or 3,000 people, mostly supporters, at the campus, right?
I had a grandson there.
Right.
Our receptionist at our office had her daughter there watching it and saw it happen.
Right.
Devastated.
So I'm just really curious about like these two polar opposite groups. So I watch his a couple of clips, and I would like to express I deeply realize that 15 minutes of YouTube clips does not tell me much about who he is.
Yeah.
But in it, I found it interesting. I'm not positive that I kind of can guess at, and I think I might understand what his mission is, right? But I'm not sure that it was readily abundant immediately, because the format is you got a big group and thousands of people, and then there's a microphone, and most of the people there are supporters.
Well, I would actually, I'm not sure about that, because think of the context in which it's happening. He's giving the microphone to people who can prove him wrong. So those can't be supporters in my mind.
But if you listen to it...
Unless he's getting people to say what he wants them to say.
Well, no, you're right. The person stepping up to the mic is not a supporter most of the time.
Right.
But it's a hostile environment because, and you can tell by watching the videos, at least the few that I watched, the person speaking will start to make a point and you can hear the crowd dissenting.
Okay.
So they're the minority. Like when you step up to debate Charlie Kirk in this setting, you're very much in a hostile crowd.
It's not one-on-one.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And then they're presenting, and once again, I'm operating from this position that I think every human on earth correct or incorrect, is just trying to express their morals to the best of their ability, to their understanding at that point in their life, right?
Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah, perhaps, right?
I don't know. It's like I never even thought about them at that age.
Yeah, it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
So, but these kids are presenting them, and Charlie Kirk is debating them, and it's very much about like, obviously he's good at this, but it is very much debate style, meaning I am going to present evidence as to why what you're saying is wrong, right?
Yeah, I don't know how it happens, so I don't know what goes
Right,
on.
but that's what it looks like, and it's interesting because that was where I saw the collusion in it, right? And what I see is somebody up there saying, I have something that feels meaningful to me. I'm having an experience, and I have a belief system built around that experience, right? And they present it to Charlie saying, what you believe is different than what I believe, and so I think you're wrong. And then Charlie
counters that argument.
And like, a part of me is like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, part of me, there's nothing wrong with that. And it's free speech, and the way that we learn from each other is by being exposed to each other and by talking. But I don't see anybody, like, I didn't see anybody that was presenting their ideas, whether they had a well-presented argument and whether Charlie retorted with a well-presented counter. I don't see anybody shifting.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, interesting.
And even when Charlie says something, because Charlie is, I mean, he's the one that's coming in prepared for all these things. A few of these kids, I imagine, but he's ready for anything.
Yeah.
And so, like, anything that's said, he's already thought through it, and he knows, like, well, this is my response to that, right? And so quite often Charlie comes out on top on these arguments because
there's another piece to it that maybe I could interject here.
Please.
Through a different example. In the high school my kids went to down in Arizona, there was a teacher there who I think he taught kind of like basic logic or basic philosophy. And he was a materialist, and so he didn't believe in spirituality or anything like that. And often he would challenge any of the youth in his class. These were high school students, sophomores, freshmen, juniors, seniors. And so he would challenge their faith. And him being in his 30s or 40s, I don't know his age, I never met the man, but the stories would be he would interact with them, and he had all these ways that he would mock them, had a logic, had his arguments all prepared for them that they hadn't thought through. Had never been challenged in this way.
Yeah.
And a number of the youth began to question their faith and their spirituality because he thought he had the answers and he thought he saw it right, and he was fairly rhetorically forceful in that.
Yeah.
In terms of how he did that. But for me, that was a very unfair sort of practice. So he's not actually teaching them the skills and the tools to be able to argue their point. He's engaging them in the class to prove that he knows it better than they do.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if this individual, Charlie Kirk, does not come to it in the same way. I've heard that he's very bright, very
Super
intelligent.
Articulate.
He's articulate. He's practiced in this. How many campuses?
I mean, I think he's done this a lot over a number of years.
I think I've heard over 3,000 campuses, right? He goes and does this. And there isn't a student talking to him
that has his expertise in
at all
debate.
Now, they may not have the level of experience in life. They're not typically married. They're young. They're inarticulate sometimes.
There's few humans in America that are as well versed in what he's doing as him.
Yeah.
And I'm talking like adult like of any stature in any medium.
Yeah.
Very few.
Yeah. So it's an unfair, it's an unlevel sort of a interaction.
Well, and it leads me to, I mean, all I can do is guess, but it makes me wonder about the intent. Like, what's he trying to accomplish?
That's going to be hard to figure out. I got to get inside him.
I like to guess. I agree. Like, knowing would be difficult, and I like your wanting to be careful about what we assume we know, right?
So let me interject another piece there that I think was what I started thinking about last week as events unfolded. I was reminded of being introduced to in 1990, maybe even 1991, being introduced to a philosopher by the name of Emmanuel Levinas.
Yes. We've talked about him a little. Keep going.
So this was a man, he was a Lithuanian of the Jewish faith, but he had been put in one of Hitler's death camps, and he survived World War II. And while he was there, he, as a thinker, even in his age, young age at that time, and he began to wonder, and he came up with two questions the whole time that he thought were relevant. The first one was, how is it that man can do violence to man? Okay. And then the second question was, what's the most basic form of violence? What is it at its very deepest roots?
That's an interesting question.
And so as he then, over the next several decades, began to think this through, trying to sort this out, trying to make sense out of this, he began to, I would say, come at philosophy in a very different way than perhaps the Greek and that sort of Western tradition would have done. He sort of saw the Greeks as they pursued the love of wisdom, whereas he began to feel he was pursuing the wisdom of love. And I thought that was interesting. Secondly, he would talk about, and this is a memory from 35 years ago, he would talk about, and I think there's probably 100 people in the United States who may have ever read about him or read him. But he talked about the word comprehend. It's a Greek word. It means to reach out with my mind and to pull in data and understanding about things and to make sense out of it. I would begin to, he would say, figure it out, sum it up, totalize it was a translation of his words. And so we do a lot that way. We learn a lot about wood, hardwoods, softwoods, deciduous, other kinds. We learn a lot about animals. We got all kinds of categories and, phylum for plants and those sorts of things. But he said, when we do this to another human, when we think we can pull another human being into our mind and figure them out, we do violence. We totalize them. This summing up, figuring them out, dehumanizes, de-dimensionalizes them. So they become more like two-dimensional.
So when you think you know somebody, is that?
He's suggesting this, he talks about another person. You, to me, would be an other. And you're completely other than me. Meaning that there's no intersecting blood vessels, right, that sort of thing. Right. You've had your life experiences growing up. We've interacted, but you're still your person. You are an individual, an indivisible person.
Yeah.
And to think that I can figure you out, I'm forgetting that you're an infinite being. Mm-hmm. And you're changing. And look, you got married in the last year, and
sure,
that's a huge change for you. I'd be wondering about what changes came about because of that.
So part of me.
So just to finalize that, so his idea that to totalize someone, just think you got them figured out, is the most basic form of violence.
It's interesting because I agree with that, and simultaneously, my only mission in life is to understand the people I love. Right?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you got them all figured out.
Oh, no,
right?
no. And that's, I think about this a lot, a conclusive mind versus a curious mind.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
Right. I know who you are.
No, sorry.
Right. Yeah. And I know why you do what you do. And I got you figured out, and I'm done learning from you.
And I immediately want to push back on you when you're doing that to me.
That is actually turning off something that I think is required at all times, that I'm trying to know you.
Yeah.
And I do agree with him. You can't
fully.
But the pursuit of it is where the most beautiful things in my life have happened.
Yes, that's important. Yes. I like that.
Feeling the reason I love you, Chris, is I think we shouldn't have gone there. I think that I do think that you understand me more than a lot of humans. I think you know me more than most, and I think you really want to know me.
Yeah.
And you want to understand me.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, tonight you talked about refashioning your home.
Yeah.
And I'm going, take me through the home and show me what you did and how come you did it.
Yeah.
And I'm learning a bit about you, and that helps me know a little more about you.
Right.
I mean, we're sitting here with this library. These are all children's books and older books and that sort of stuff.
So we got some really high-end intellectual books around the corner.
Yeah, that I barely understand, but they're a representation of things that I've and my wife we've ingested across time. So, some ways getting to know this would give you an insight into me.
Right. So that's a great kind of little tangent that comes back in, and I do want to finish this circle because I'm worried that somebody listening to this might think that I might have the sentiment that Charlie Kirk deserved what happened to him.
No,
but
because that's the ultimate totalization of somebody, is that I must annihilate them.
Oof, right?
Does that make sense?
But here's the other thing that's going on with me. I have this belief system that tells me that at their core, the fundamental parts, every human's the same. And so that poor kid that took that shot, somewhere in there is me. And how did he get? How did he get to where that was not only something he did, but he felt justified in it, and maybe even felt he was being courageous. Maybe even felt it needed to be done. I'm a hero. Yeah. Right?
So years ago, I read the 2-volume set of Gulag Archipelago by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Fascinating. So he was arrested. He was in the military, and he was arrested for a crime he did not commit. Okay? And he said a couple of things. He said, in looking back, after 7 years of imprisonment that nearly broke my back, he was set free, loose. He said, but when I first went to prison, I let another prisoner carry my luggage. I didn't know that we were all equal. And he started to discover things. And one of the pieces in there, he said, only after years of contemplation and wondering and interaction with these fellow prisoners, that he realized that he was only 1 or 2 decisions away from being the executioner.
Right.
I too, with a couple of choices, could have been on that side instead of this side.
Well, and I've shared this before, I believe, on the podcast. James Orbinski, the head of Doctors Without Borders, is in Rwanda during the genocide, and he's treating victims of people, like a woman who was attacked with a machete. And the way he wrote it, he says, this is who we are. This is who I am. This is what we're capable of. This is what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, I was like, who's in the world in the way and thinking, and of course maybe somebody that put his entire life into serving the impoverished with medicine, right? Is that how you become a person that sees yourself in people doing the most vicious things imaginable to man? So, you know, if you wouldn't mind humoring me, because I think it carries, I don't know, I've just been excited to walk through this thought process with you. If I try to understand the intent of Charlie Kirk and his mission, and here's the thing, like, some of that's very inspirational. Like, he's going out and he's talking about his values in a way that thousands and thousands of people resonate with, right? But then I get curious about the people, like, how could this big group of people, especially if you believe all people are fundamentally the same, which I do, right?
In terms of capacities, they're the same in terms of being human. We're equally human, but the capacities may vary significantly.
Yeah.
Is that what you're trying to talk about?
Well, and I think what drives us, I actually think our moralities, I think we get confused on how to live our values, but I think everyone's got the same morality.
I probably would think about that a little differently, just because of the circumstances in which we grow up. I grew up with a racist father, a sexist father, and a mother who was an abolitionist. She was a Quaker. And that was an interesting mix. Because when my dad would say something, I'd kind of look and see mom and watch her wince and things like that.
Right.
So all those things we grew up with, look, this business of becoming human comes because I enter and communicate and interact with other humans. That's how I become human. And I will acquire their emotional and their emotional repertoire, their social repertoire, etc. So I become that, but it doesn't mean we're exactly the same in morality. I just think we all have morality.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Because the question I want to ask you in response to what you're saying is, before the confusion of your dad and the wrong things that he said and the wrong ways that he thought, and where did those come from for him? What was there before that was there?
Yeah.
And so I think we're in like a very troubled world, and we're surrounded by confused people, but even in the craziest things, like I think that kid thought he was doing a good thing.
Yeah.
And in that way he was expressing an incredible courageousness in the wrong pursuit.
Yeah, there's always a
value.
Even when we're self-deceived, we're still operating on what we see as our values.
I guess that's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like, we're always, even when we're doing the wrong things, but we're pursuing our values.
All in the name of a value. So my way of trying to think about that is that when I violate my own morality, when I go against what I feel is right in terms of how I am interacting with others, because it's all interaction in my mind, whether they're present or not. When I do that, I set in motion a whole stream of consequences, not a linear one, but like time-wise, but there's now these consequences. I'll need to feel justified. I will blame emotionally and logically. I'll feel victimized either by myself or by others. I'll blame myself or I'll blame others. But the one that's fascinating to me, there's two of them that really fascinate me. One is I'll now use values to devalue others. And now we're back to the violence.
Right.
So having a value is no great gift because I can use and weaponize values.
Yeah.
So it has me distance and separate from others. And I can always get a faction. I can always get people to listen to me.
And forgive me for continuing to circle back to
Go ahead.
But I got like a train of thought that I kind of want to walk through with you, but of course
I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah. So forgive me, but
nothing to forgive.
But so I see Charlie Kirk. In some ways, this is really inspirational, and quite honestly, like coming from where I come from, not completely, but a lot of what he says I resonate with, because we come from somewhat similar backgrounds, meaning he's expressing, he very openly is like, I am a Christian and I am pushing Christian values as he understands them, which is not all Christians. He's not like, not all Christians think the way he thinks, right? Not two humans think the way the same as each other.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So to say like, oh, they're, once again, like you're talking about like that totality of people, oh, they're a Christian. Oh, they're a Muslim.
We got a label.
We got a label, and now we don't have to be curious about an infinite human that's completely incomprehensible, right? Anyway, in some ways, like some of the arguments he makes, I go, well, like those are similar to like my understandings and my values, and I think maybe that's why he's got a big following. But I still am just endlessly fascinated about the family member that thinks he deserved to die because he was so evil and he was a hate-filled person that spread hate.
And not noticing my own hate in that.
Yeah, right? But being curious about that, because also, you know what, Chris? I know this person, and when I interact with him face to face, he's kind. And I can see him trying to be a good person and do good in the world.
Yeah.
And yet, that same kind person that I've looked in the eyes of put this thing on social media that said this person deserved to die.
Wow.
Right? That's confusing to me.
Yeah.
Right?
Who are we to make that judgment?
Right.
It's a tough one.
Well, and I wonder how we get there. And that's where I want to propose this idea that there was a collusion developing. And it's interesting, like, to me, this was a collusion that developed on a national platform through social media. So the collusion's happening not just person to person, but amongst groups and thousands of people. And I think that might be why it grew to such a divide where one person, I also see a blindness, and I want to be, I hope this doesn't offend people. I'm worried about it, but I see a blindness in, I think Charlie Kirk, I obviously see a blindness in the man who killed Charlie Kirk. That's deeply blind. But I see a blindness in how Charlie Kirk was pursuing his values.
And unfortunately, I don't have data on that.
But let me talk you through like what I'm thinking.
Give me an example of that.
Right. So there's a young black man, I know, video I watched, and he's at a school, and he's going to, I don't know, TCU or something like that. I don't know. But
Texas Christian University?
Something like that. I don't know.
The Horned Frogs?
I can't remember. But a school in Texas, I believe it was, a college. And he says, do you believe in white privilege, to Charlie Kirk, right? And Charlie Kirk, it's canned up, ready to go, you can tell. He goes, what can I do that you can't do? And this young black man can't really think of anything. And he says, well, like nothing, right? And he goes, and the black man says, you don't like, what is it? I can't even think what it is. Like when somebody gets put into a school because of their ethnic background, or like it's like there's a quota around it.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the phrase is.
I can't either. Starts with an A. That's all I can remember.
Yeah, but
affirmative action?
Yes, that's it.
Ha!
He goes, but you don't like affirmative action, to Charlie Kirk. And he goes, no, I think that's racist. Like if you give people on anything based but merit, then that's doing something because of the color of their skin, and I think that's racist. And this black kid, and he says to the black kid, he says, he's very straightforward. He goes, did you get into this school because of affirmative action, or did you earn your place? And he goes, I earned my place. And he goes, good, you deserve to be here. Good for you. Like Charlie Kirk says, good for you.
Yeah.
Right? But this young man, he's carrying a weight and a perception of the world that him and his entire culture have been wronged. And does he have evidence to that? Good gracious. Good gracious, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Charlie Kirk says, okay, that was 60 years ago. What about you now? How have you been wronged, right? So there's these arguments, and like some of what Charlie Kirk, I mean, this young man couldn't come up with the response on the moment. Like Charlie was, to me, it very much seemed that he was besting him. He was besting him in a debate, right? But there's no curiosity about why this is painful for this young man, about why he goes, no, I think my people deserve a leg up in America. And you know what I mean?
Or at least let's make it fair, the competition fair or something.
Well, and there's just,
whether it's racism or sexism, those are two ways of totalizing the other.
Well, and it's this idea that if I can out-logic you or best you in a debate, then that will serve us.
As proof of
right.
We're right and you've got it wrong. And you just ought to stop whining.
And I think that's where I see this collusion where people see that and they go, because that young man had a real pain. He felt wronged. He felt like not only him, but his entire race was not seen as equal. And he was asking somebody to
acknowledge
that. And part of that acknowledgement in his mind, and I don't know that I'd have to really think about whether I agree with this or not, but for him it was by saying, hey, let's give more black people opportunities, even if they don't have the same testing scores. That was an acknowledgement of like the way he experienced something that I think he has a lot of evidence for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
having just visited the African American Museum in DC.
Right.
Little haunting place.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we just talked about that awful story of that man that was threatened to be hung. I mean, yeah. He has a lot of evidence.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's interesting.
Even unpacking that story that we read in the news clipping would show the collusion. Because so often when we would teach at Arbinger about a collusion, we'd point out, we'd tell a story between two people.
Yes.
As if it were limited to two people.
Right, but oftentimes it's cultures, societies.
In companies, it's department against department. They
Sure.
silo up. The salespeople oversell, and the developers can't produce, exactly what the salespeople are selling, et cetera, in the software companies. So they can be at that level. It can be cultural. It can be religions. Those collusions, it's like we want to be part of something, but we often, in order to be part of something, we have to be against something.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we define ourselves by not being like them. In gangs, what happens, if I'm in this gang and you're in that gang, and I'm trying to leave my gang and get out of it because I think this is crazy, I got to go do something else, where does my gang think the only place I can go in the world? And that's over to your gang. So they either beat me up or kill me. There's very strict rules about how you can get out of a gang, and sometimes those are very violent. So you have this collusions, I think, are at a very huge scale. For example, I think there's one in our profession.
Oh, yeah.
One of the collusions in our profession is the current theories, ideas about emotions, and that that's all accepted. Everybody just knows that's the way it is, and there's very few people questioning it. You have a Carol Tavris, you've got a couple of, Terry Warner and some others who've asked questions about that, but they're very quickly silenced, and their works aren't published in those journals.
That's not the common paradigm, and we can't accept new science that conflicts with our own, as we talked about with Thomas Kuhn's.
Thomas Kuhn's point of view. So we often are tribal. We're often, I got to have a group that accepts me and approves of me. When you start to see all those dynamics, it's a bit crazy. And I love that you always bring it back to curiosity. There wasn't curiosity in that. It wasn't a, tell me more about that.
And do you see, and all of a sudden, my relative that had all that hate in his heart, but when I interact with him, I go, this is a kind person trying to be a good person.
Yeah.
That's who I experience, like face to face with them. You read that post, you're like, holy cow, it's jarring. It was jarring for me.
Yeah.
And obviously, this kid that took that shot, the young black man, I just kind of talked through like the video. Do you think he left there feeling that Charlie Kirk
saw him,
and that Charlie Kirk's view of the world is accurate?
No, I would think he walked away shaking his head.
Did anybody shift closer to each other?
Oh, very good question.
Right.
Well, within the close ranks, you know that phrase.
Yes.
Within the collusion, they close ranks, and now we can whisper and talk about him and nod our head knowingly. So sick of these people.
I think people get such a dopamine hit when they have evidence of their rightness.
I do.
Yeah. And so you got these 2,000 kids that are kind of like, they experience the world, and their background opens them up to be receptive to the way that Charlie Kirk sees the world. And what I see is, I see it going both directions, and this is a collusion. I see Charlie Kirk looking at elements of the left and saying they're wrong. In fact, they're wrong in a way that's dangerous and hurtful. And I'm going to fight that by being smarter and out debating and arguing with people, right? And I think that really serves everybody that agrees with him. Like everybody that goes, yeah, you're right. They are wrong, and this is the way to think, and those guys are dangerous.
That's one possibility. But think about this also, that it fits their thinking, so they like that.
Right.
But I'm asking the question, why would that appeal to them? Why would they need someone to make the argument for them? Why? Well, I think of the age of these kids, we talk about brain development and that sort of thing, but why would I must feel marginalized in order to have him be a champion of what? What's he a champion of?
I went to, there's a memorial site at UVU.
UVU.
Yeah, and a lot of flowers, and a lot of people made little postcards and stuff. And most of them I thought were very, this guy was a father and a husband. And he was, even if the way he was pursuing his values objectified certain populations, right?
But it's still a human being, and he has rights because of that. And that's what our country stands for.
And wouldn't it have been nice if he had time to learn? He kind of reminds me of like Saul and Paul, like from the Bible.
Oh yeah.
Like Saul went about fighting God essentially, but he did that because he thought that's what was right to do, and he was actually very good at it because he was a very driven, moral man. But when he realized that he was in the wrong,
6 words undid that man. Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me?
Right.
Oh wait,
I was in the wrong.
But he was open to that.
Right. And Charlie Kirk.
Well, I think about my own life. How open am I been? Because I'm thinking a lot about my marriage here and how and my children and those sorts of things. And I'm thinking, How many times did I insist on being right? How many times did I mistreat my family all in the name of I know how things ought to be going? And that has been the challenge of my life, is to actually become that genuinely curious human being about another living being. As I've discovered that, and I've sort of learned that slowly from people who thought through life better than I have, all of a sudden I'm not really delighted by about anybody I meet anymore. I would have loved to have sat with Charlie Kirk and just been curious with him. Tell me more about that. How come you think that?
As I would have loved to understand that young black man.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. We're all discoverable. That's what we ought to be doing here.
And I think I think people think they're at threat, and they think there's a war going on. And I think that belief leads people to fight that war in a way that is never curious about the other. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the idea of collusion is we invite in others the very thing we say we don't like. The other nature of collusion that I notice is that the longer we live in it, the more amplified the violence or the anger or the negativity becomes. But from that perspective, where people are having if you disagree with Charlie Kirk and you watch a video and he says something that you go, well, I'm pro-abortion, and he says that abortion's murder, but I have reasons that I think it's not. That it's the autonomy of a woman, and that's the way I understand. That's what I believe.
Yeah. That's
what I think is right. And then you see 2,000 people that all seem to agree with him, and you go, oh my gosh, I'm a minority. And then you feel this feeling to protect and defend yourself. How are you going to talk about Charlie Kirk to everybody you know, and like online, and you know what I mean? But see, Charlie Kirk's doing the same thing because he feels threatened by somebody's belief that is pro-abortion or believes in
affirmative action,
or whatever the thing is.
That people can immigrate here, or whatever that is.
Instead of being in a position where he goes, I think everybody's good, and just trying to figure out how to do that.
I've traveled the world.
Okay.
And been in a lot of, not all the countries, but I've been in a bunch of countries. And I can tell you, I go do trainings there from the company I work for Arbinger. And I would every morning get up in some hotel, and I'd get out and get some taxi or some form of driving to wherever I'm going. And what I saw in every city was, every place I was at, thousands and thousands and thousands of people just getting up and going to work and doing a good job. Doesn't matter where I go. That's what happens in every place.
Yeah.
There's so many humans just out there doing good.
Just people trying to take care of their families.
Trying to feed their family. And I think the irony of some of that stuff is that I think it seems to me, and again, I'm speaking from a vacuum here. I don't know what I'm talking about. But the principle, because I don't know what Charlie Kirk says, the principle is that he has this appeal to people to say we're Christians and
family values
and those sorts of things.
Sure.
Abortion's murder and this and that. And why is that appealing? Well, because the very people he's talking to, those who are appealed to that, feel marginalized, feel victimized, feel taken advantage of. So how come, now I'm not troubled by them feeling that, but shouldn't that spark some interest in the other people having a similar kind of experience, that they feel marginalized, that they feel ignored, not seen?
Yeah, and that's the thing that I find really fascinating is I think that both Charlie Kirk and the man who shot him, in a way, were struggling and failing in the same way. Because they both felt like they were in a fight and that the other was wrong and that they needed to correct that, but they struggled to question whether the other person might be more like them than they realize.
Why can't we find common ground? There, you know, it's interesting. You bring up abortion, and you have a view, and he has a view, and
Sure.
And often, in America, it seems like the debate is over, you know, what are the things? Free choice or what are they?
Pro-choice or pro-life.
Pro-choice or pro-life.
Yeah.
Well, I read an author here a couple of years ago who said, you know, I think there's another way to come at this whole thing. In 28 days, a woman is fertile for 24 hours, generally, right? She goes through her menstrual cycle, and somewhere in that, before the bleeding starts, she has ovulation, okay? A man, on the other occasion, is fertile 24 hours a day, all 28 days.
Yeah.
Why isn't the burden of contraception on him instead of her? And so, you know, the woman takes the birth control pill, she has the implant,
Sure.
This and that, there's various ways, and maybe the man will use a condom, but a lot of men don't like that because they feel it robs them of their pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of years ago, they did a clinical trial for a male birth control pill, which lasted about 3 or 4 months. And the men stopped doing it because they didn't like how they felt. They felt headaches and nausea and stuff like that, and they didn't want to put up with that. The very thing that they have their woman do.
Right. Right.
And I think it's a similar kind of thing. Why can't we think better about that? So this woman in writing the book talks about how do we men be responsible about our fertility. And she makes a couple of recommendations that, given now the medical science is such that 90-some% of vasectomies are reversible, she would recommend that you get a vasectomy or bank your sperm, get a vasectomy, and then have that reversed when you want to have a child.
Right. Man, that's the side effect profile on that is like way lower. Like that would be way less. There'd be way less side effects compared to like a woman, the way that we do contraception.
So,
women.
United States, among developed countries, has one of the highest maternal mortality rates of pregnant women. And in this country, the higher rate is because of homicide, that the pregnant woman is killed either by a boyfriend or husband.
Yeah.
So when you start listening to another voice out there, I'm not completely on her side. I actually have disagreement with some of the stuff, but the data I don't have disagreement with.
Well, and I love the curiosity in something that we just assume is a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, it's either this or this.
I mean,
that's the old.
I've just never heard anyone explore that side of it, and I go, well, that's kind of refreshing.
It is.
You know, just somebody going, hey, have we really like looked at all sides of this?
We looked at another possibility, how we might approach this.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
you struck me earlier. To me, the real dangerous thing, and I think that I have lived there. I think I often live there. Like, I think I do this thing that I think is dangerous. But living a world where you consistently and persistently view yourself as a victim. And
I read somebody recently saying he felt that hell was to be frozen in self-pity.
Yeah, yeah. And it's an interesting thing. Okay, so if not a victim, then what? And please help me, Chris, because this is, sometimes we have these conversations and I'm sharing with you very formed thoughts. This is not well formed, but I see the pitfalls of of being, of seeing myself as a victim, because look what it leads to. It leads to the ongoing objectification of other groups.
Here's the funny thing about people who feel victimized, myself included.
Yeah.
So I have a question about that. And it's this question. Do you take offense at every offense that comes your way?
And no, not always. Most of them, though.
Fair enough. It'll change across time. If you stay curious.
I hope.
If you stay curious, it'll change. But what I find is we don't. In fact, some of the times when mistreatment comes our way, we don't take offense. Instead, we understand. There's this really interesting sort of, I kind of understand where they're coming from, why they're doing that, why they do that way. And I kind of have a view of them across time that they'll get better. They'll discover that. How many times have you looked back to some interaction with somebody that didn't go well, and now years later you go, I could have handled that better?
If we understand those who wrong us, I'm asking, if we understand those who wrong us, we will not take offense.
Because there's a word that I learned years ago, and it just surfaced again in this last month for me. And the word is equanimity. Ever heard of equanimity?
No.
There's this sense of being still, being not so much composed in an artful way, but that I'm non-offense taking, that I'm okay with being here in the circumstances I am in, and I'm trying to help things go right despite the wrongs that I'm experiencing. And they are real.
Yeah.
So if somebody hits my car and drives off without letting me know, well, I could rage. I know how to do that stuff. But I could also go, I don't know what was going on. I don't know how afraid they are about what their insurance would cost or whether they had insurance or any of that stuff. But they didn't respond well. And that should teach me I ought not to respond that way, instead of trying to go find them or hit somebody else's car in an act of vengeance or something like that. Can I learn? Can I discover something about this life that deepens me? That I'm more tranquil, more composed, more at ease in those circumstances when people attack me, when they're unkind, when they say grievous things, horrible things. Can I hear that in a way that I hear their pain? So sometimes I think we've talked about this. If you've had this experience where times when when what Terry talks about, have the inward mindset or have a heart at war.
Okay.
And somebody rails at you, says a bunch of horrible things. I hate you, you're a hypocrite, you're bearded and you're ugly. Okay? They say something like that. Well, if I'm already in that,
call me bearded.
I know.
Sorry,
the one thing I can't grow.
You just made me laugh about. Okay, so when we're in that place.
So when I'm in that space of the inward mindset, the heart at war, how do I uptake that vituperative things that they're saying? How do I do that? Well, I'm convinced that they're the problem here.
And you're wronging me, and
yes, you're mistreating me, and you're so wrong, and you've judged me wrong, and you're judgmental. And
only a bad person would talk to me like that.
See, now you're revealing. Now I know who you are, and there's all kinds of styles.
I know who you are. I've concluded it. Yeah.
But there's other times when I have a heart at peace, and I'm curious, and I'm outward, and I have equanimity, and they yell at me, and I'm worried about the pain they're in.
Well, and think about the underlying assumption you have for humanity in that moment. If a person is doing wrong and mistreating others,
there's a backstory.
And that's not who they are.
That's what I love.
Or at least a curiosity. But I think what I find when I've been able to be curious that way is that unanimously I find out that's not who they are.
Yeah.
But you don't always have to believe that everyone's good. You could even just go, well, am I sure they're bad?
Do you know thing that Brian Stevenson said about that. He said this line that we humans are more than the worst thing we've ever done.
Yeah.
I think he's hinting at that.
What
right?
are the underlying assumptions about the people that we disagree with?
Well, if I disagree with them, see, for me, disagreeing doesn't inform me very much. Because I think there's two ways to disagree. I can disagree with someone I see in an objectifying way, and I can disagree with someone I see as a human.
Underlying assumptions.
Yes. Oh, that's what you meant. All right.
Because if I disagree with you and my underlying assumptions are, you're just a bad guy.
Yeah, you're dumb, you're stupid, Wallace.
You're
what
dumb,
do you know?
You're stupid. I know you.
You're so stuck in your ways.
I really love your violence is to think that you could know somebody.
Figure them out.
That is really clicking with me. Yeah. Like, I know you. You're just an idiot or a hateful person.
But what if that's true, though?
But this assumption that the underlying assumption that you know and understand somebody and you have figured them out and there's nothing to be curious about, right? Yeah. Versus you're doing something that doesn't make sense to me or I don't like.
Yeah.
Why?
Or I see it differently. But I'm still curious. Yeah, what's going on? Where'd that come from?
How'd you get to where you think that way?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Anyway, I just really I see pain in all that and anger and I'm sad that it led to the loss of a man's life. And actually, I said that wrong. I said that very wrong. I'm sad that led to the end of two men's lives.
Well,
that was a young man that took that shot.
There's an old saying, if you go on a trail of vengeance or revenge, dig 2 graves first.
And I thought about, they got pictures of that young man and they couldn't find him, so they put him out to the public. Could you imagine being, oh my gosh, that's my son.
Yeah.
My son did that.
Yeah. It was interesting. My wife immediately said, I wish they had not shown their house, car, anything done. Because what will that family now face? Because people will make very quick assumptions.
I don't think the weight, which I think is immense, but I don't think the weight on Charlie's wife is a lot different than the weight on that poor family.
Yeah.
Whose son threw his life away because he thought he knew somebody and that they needed to be stopped. And
annihilated.
Yeah. He needed, so many lives ruined on all sides. And then it makes me sad to see people I know carrying that wrong weight. These moral, good people, like my family member, hating and carrying the weight of hate. And that's why I like, I guess here's the prayer in my heart. That America can realize that we're all the same, and that if somebody is lost, confused, go be curious about them. Go try to help them. Go try to take care.
Or just hear them.
Yeah. Go try to take care of them.
Go back to Brenda Euland and learn to, her word, I loved her word. This is that she talks about listening and what a powerful approach that is. And her article, Tell Me More, by Brenda Euland, you can find that online. It's terrific, 4 pages, it's short, incredibly insightful. And toward the end, she has a paragraph that says, so how do you listen? And she says someone who's a censorious or a critical listener drives people up because the way you come at them, they stutter. She talks about we all have this little artesian well wanting to spring up and express things. And she says with anybody, you have to say a bunch of things and more, and then it'll start to get clear in that because they're thinking. Just because we speak doesn't mean we have it. Mm-hmm. I got to talk and hear myself and have you respond and go, oh no, that's not how I want to say it. I'm trying to say this. It's a learning. But she talks about creative listening. That's fascinating to me. That's an interesting adjective or adverb to put in front of that when I listen to someone, I'm actually delighted in any expression they make. Even if they're vituperative, she says, even if they're outrageous, I'm delighted with all of that. And then she says something amazing. She says, because even if they're bad, we know that they're not always that way. And that we don't just love them when they're good. We love them when they're bad. And that, I found, was profoundly Christian, profoundly religious point. I don't just love people when they're good.
Or when they know the right way, right?
Yeah.
Or when they agree with me.
Yeah. I have learned more from those who have disagreed with me than those who have ever agreed with me.
Well, what did it demand of you?
It demands change. It demands expanding, learning, opening up.
To find consensus and peace amongst someone who is the same as me requires nothing of me. But when somebody has been different than me, when somebody has had different values, beliefs, background, experiences,
so
it has demanded me to go, wait a minute, I don't get that.
So I had
if
one of...
I have that if it's a good experience.
If I'm open to it, right?
Yeah.
So you know that I was a hick kid growing up in the 1950s and 60s in Nevada on a ranch 20 miles from a town, which meant we didn't have a telephone, we didn't have a TV, we did have a record player, an RCA.
And a lot of books.
And a lot of books like this. And we had each other. The nearest neighbor was 9 miles away, so I didn't have a friend come over at night. I didn't have any of that. I left that and went to college just outside New York City. Not only that, this was a very different educational experience because there was no grades and tests in that school. Very different. That'd take a long explanation. Don't want to do that. You can look it up online. But I was one of maybe 15 or 20, 25 boys, young men, with 725 girls.
Yeah, you're educated. Sarah Lawrence.
Lawrence College. In 1971 there.
Were you one of the first classes that allowed...
I don't remember if there were some there before me, but not many of us.
Yeah.
You know, you might see...
And even then you were a wild minority.
I was a wild minority because 80% of the students there were Jewish, and they were amazing students. I had to scramble to catch up. But every moment at that school for the years from 71 to 74 when I graduated was, I never knew. I didn't know that.
A flood of
knowledge. Oh my heavens.
Yeah.
To have people come from all walks, other people to come and lecture and to teach us and all that kind of stuff, it was fabulous. And so we didn't read out of textbooks. We read original authors all the time. And so that's my leaning. That was great for me. But let me go back a few years. At age 16, I came home, and I've told this story before. I came home, found my parents arguing, and my dad cuffed my mom and knocked her onto the couch. I went and got a gun, a .45 caliber 1911 pistol, loaded it, and chased my father from the house. I was that close.
I think you ever told me that part of it. It wasn't just bluffing. You were connected to that.
I meant it. I was 16.
You were mad and you were protecting your mom, but you were connected to, it was close to hurting your father in that way.
Yeah. And he left.
Yeah.
Came back a few days later. I don't remember how long. Nothing was said about that. It was 1967. I know how close one can get to a trigger. The hard part for me was 2 months later, he took the same pistol and shot himself. So going to Sarah Lawrence was a crucible I had to go through to begin to discover that others were other than me, and they were different, and they'd had all kinds of different experiences. And I began to learn that there. I began to learn how to learn, yes, but most of all, I began to learn how amazing humans are.
All.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was heavy for me. I feel like I've been affected by any time something like that's happened in the nation, a big national story of...
I was in the 7th grade when JFK was shot. A couple of years later, RFK is shot. Martin Luther King is shot. May 4th, which I cannot stand, may the 4th be with you. May 4th, the National Guard shoots 4 students at Kent State.
Yeah, that one was wild.
Every time it hurts.
Well, and it speaks to an underlying, like, to me it wasn't, what does that say about this young man? I said, no, there's a community that feels the way this young man felt.
Yeah.
And then I go, how did we get a community where these two groups interact with each other in a way,
let's just think about,
perpetually pushes them further from each other and into like more extreme levels of disapproval, anger, othering, objectification, and ultimately violence.
John Wilkes Booth, 1865. Who was he hanging out with?
Right.
What was his community that they got?
He wasn't the only person it wasn't, yeah, he didn't exist in a vacuum.
That's right.
He had to have a community that helped him feel like that was the right thing to do. And so I guess these things...
Or the valiant or the justifiable thing to do or something.
They speak, and I think both sides are lost.
A pox on both our houses.
I think both of them, people go, well, no, like Charlie Kirk was spreading hate and this, and other people go, no, like that other side is
spreading hate.
And they're both just not seeing each other. And that stuff makes me sad. Like I wanted to understand Israel and Palestine more. So I listened to the Martyr Made podcast. It's a 24-hour deep dive into the history of that conflict, right? And that's a collusion where two groups,
for how many centuries?
For hundreds of years, have seen and interacted with the other in a way that invites them to do the very thing they say they don't like. Right?
Yeah.
And I see that with the Charlie Kirk story, and I see it really driven by social media.
So here's a question about the Middle East. Ready? 1973, Israel did not have the upper hand. Their Air Force had been largely wiped out. Another country in the Middle East gave them their fighter jets. They repainted them to the colors of the IDF, and they put Star of David on them, flew them to Israel. Israel used those and won that war. What country gave them those jets?
I have no idea.
Iran.
Yeah, it's fascinating, right? It's just beyond comprehension. But when you're committed to believing that another person is a problem, not just someone who has a problem, you respond to them in a way that incentivizes and invites them to be more of that thing.
Yeah.
And I just see it playing out in our political system more than I've seen in my life. Now, you went through Vietnam, and you will understand. Like, I don't know, do you, I imagine maybe that separation feels like it was worse than today. But for me, not understanding, not being old enough to see us do it more than once.
It was really bad. We had 4 presidents in a row lying to us. Interestingly enough, there's an author, Steve Shine, who just wrote a book. He's written a number of books. I really like his research. He's very careful. He gets help. Anyway, he just wrote a book called The Most Dangerous Man, I think. And he's writing about Daniel Ellsberg, who's the guy that leaked the Pentagon Papers. And he walked through that history, and I'm going, yeah, remember that? Yeah, remember that? I remember that. Oh, my heavens, yes, 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 yes. And it brought up a lot of those old thoughts and experience during that time, that this was not a war I wanted to be a part of. I had to sign up for the draft. I had a 2S deferment, a student deferment, for a couple of years. And then one, I think January 1st of 1970, all of a sudden I went 1A. But that lasted 4 months, and then I was made 1H, which meant I could only be called up in time of war, declared war. Vietnam was not a declared war, it was the Gulf of Tonkin resolution. But living through that, also at the height of feminism, there was so many divides in our country.
Yeah.
So many divides. So I've sort of been in those divides for a long time and tried to stay apart from it, not siding with either side, but trying to learn.
What do these different groups need? It's like the only place that I see that like this gets any better.
Yeah, I'm probably...
We don't have to suffer like this.
I'm not the one to answer that, but there are some people I can recommend nudging others towards, and that's to follow the work right now that Chad Ford and Patrick Mason are doing at Utah State University.
Okay.
Chad Ford has left after doing 20 years of the Peace Building Institute there in Hawaii. He came here now in his 2nd year, I think, and they're working very hard at it. And they've got a bunch of videos on YouTube called The Way to Peace, where they have 6 or 7 videos of people who've had really hard things, and they talk through how they resolved those. They're really powerful videos. I'd recommend them to you.
Maybe we can find them and put them on a link in our...
I've got them linked on my computer, so I can do all that.
If you send them to me, I'll link them to this and the 15 people that watch this.
Yeah. Well, look, those 15 people might tell somebody else.
Yeah.
And maybe 17 will know about this after a bit. But
anyway,
I get the wrestle. This is hard.
Well, and you know, the other thing, like earlier we were talking about, like going through life viewing yourself as a victim. But how hard is that to not do? Because who can't tell a story how they've been wronged? Name me a single soul on earth that can't tell a story how they've been wronged. And knowing what to do with that is hard. What do I do with I've been wronged?
I don't think there's a formula.
Yeah.
Because after my dad suicides, October of 67, I felt the victim. I hated him. I was angry. And 5 years later, 1972, I'm talking with a girl, and I'm telling her my story of victimhood. And her response is to laugh. She laughs at my story.
I bet you love that.
I did not love that. I thought, you impotent little twit. You're 17. I'm 21. I'm going to an amazing school back east. I'm a smart son of a gun.
And not only that, but don't you have the checkmate of stories?
Yes.
How could anybody not agree with you?
I'm a victim.
Yeah, how dared she?
How dare she?
But what did that do to you?
Well, she
she asked a couple of questions. I said, how can you laugh? This is painful. And she said, well, because I had these dreams, and they always have a constant theme of abandonment. I'd see my dad, I'd run outside to catch up with him, disappeared, barren wasteland. Again and again and again, some version of that. That's what I'm telling her. He suicided, there's this going on. And she chuckles, and I said, how can you laugh? And she says, well, your dad's dead, right? He's not doing this. You're doing this. You dreamed the dream. Now I'm confused. And I'm wondering, is she smarter than I am? That's my question.
Because she's breaking your brain.
It's hurting my head. And so as I'm trying to think, she said, well, if you could ever catch up to him, what would you say to him? And I let loose all this invective.
Ruined my life. Yeah.
And then she says, makes an observation. That's really interesting. Because at some level, you recognize that he was in such pain that he ended his life, that you don't allow yourself to go yell at him and add to that pain.
Your subconscious mind, you never catch him.
I never catch him.
You never get to confront him and share these emotions.
And
or you never let yourself. That's interesting, just the idea you never let yourself do that.
So I remember in that moment having one of those weird experiences with two thoughts simultaneously, very different from each other. One was, no, I want to tell him this. Wait, my dad was suffering?
You never considered it.
I'm suffering. Why can't I see that other people are suffering? Why did I never, all I saw were my burdens. Why couldn't I see that he had burdens?
And that's the difficult part about being wronged and feeling like a victim, is that we
turn inward.
And we lose our curiosity, and it makes it difficult to consider others. It just makes me think what a huge gift that young woman was in your life. And it kind of makes me wonder, like, man, how many years from when your dad died to this moment? 5 years? 5 years, and she might have been the first person with the courage to laugh at you. which is actually a super funny response. But also, I'm considering.
Well, she laughed. She just sort of chuckled.
But was she the first? She was either the first person that actually did it, or the first person to express to you, hey, when you tell me about your pain, I also am really curious about your father's pain.
Wow.
You know, either the first person, maybe others thought it, but for some reason they go, no, I can't tell him.
Oh yeah, a lot of conversations ended abruptly, and they got interest. I need to refill my drink.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right. But here's this person that not only saw your pain, but your father's pain.
Why was that so immediately obvious to her? And in 5 years, I could not have discovered that.
Yeah. And she was the first person that had the comfort, wisdom, understanding. I don't know what to call it.
She was 17.
I don't know what to call it, but she
was an old soul.
She was the first person that understood it and shared it with you. I see two people's pain. I see the pain of you, but I also see your father's pain.
Yeah.
And what did that do for you?
Well,
what changed after that?
What came next was, I asked her, so what should I say to him? like she's supposed to know the answers. You've gotten me this far, you better have something. And she scratched her little head and said, I don't know. She said, but you could at least apologize for hating and resenting him all these years. And I blew up at her again. I yelled at her. I just said, if anyone ought to apologize, it's him. He's ruined my life. And she said, oh no, he ruined his life. You're ruining yours.
That is one of you've told me that story before, and that might be one of the most powerful sentences I've ever heard.
What she said worked for me. I have no idea. You can't memorize what she said and go find someone who's got issues like this and do this to them. That's not the way it works. It's not It's not a big industrial machine that you pump out solutions. This is a cottage industry, and that girl in that moment saw two people in pain.
Yeah.
So
it's who she was.
Yeah.
And
who she was in that moment with me.
And how she, yeah, right, in that moment.
And all that took me aback. I had to get away from her and think. And I thought and thought and thought. And I finally realized, I called my mom about things. I chatted with her, asked her questions, and realized, like, one of the questions I asked my mom was, that summer, playing baseball for the high school, I'd knocked this tooth out. And they put one of those chrome shiny ones out there. And I remember my dad at one point, we were there working away, and I was smiling. He said, "Oh, hey, yo, sunshine, close your mouth, you're blinding me." And I asked my mom, why would he say that rude thing? Why did he make fun of me in this tooth? And my mom says, "Oh, you kids, you're funny. You remember things wrong. That's what your dad always called you. When you were born, you had you had hair the color of scrambled eggs, yellow. And he picked you up in his great big hands and he just held you there and he said, it's my little sunshine." And every time I got a story like that, my heart would melt. And I started to recapture my father's humanity, and I finally realized I could apologize.
And you felt like you should.
And I just felt, I wanted to, is what I felt. It wasn't a should, it was just, I want to.
A desire. But also, that desire means that you felt that whatever he had done, there were things that you had done wrong.
Yeah.
In how you had thought of him and seen him.
Yeah, it doesn't erase his suicide and the fact that I missed him and all that. So I remember
and that was a mistake.
Yeah.
That was a mistake he made.
Yeah.
Profound one.
Yeah. And it revealed something about his own struggles. But I remember going to bed that night saying, I could apologize. And I had the dream one last time. And this time I caught up with him. And I apologized. And for the first time in my life, he took me into an embrace. And the way I remember it is I felt my heart literally rotate inside my chest. And when it was done, the rotation, I just missed my dad. All the hate, all the resentment was gone. I just missed him. There was still a longing.
It sounds like a much more preferable place.
I could live with that.
Missing him and seeing love there.
Wishing it had gone differently.
Yeah, and that he loved you, and that he probably, did he wish it went differently?
Yeah.
Right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean...
I had a recent experience, I'll tell you off camera.
Yeah, that's fine. Anyway, that's a good place.
The other thing, the last thing I'd say about that
please.
is this. A couple of years before that, I changed in the kind of son I was to him. A very rich uncle had come out and said, "Hey, we'd love it if Chris had come back east and we'll show him Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, and DC and New York." And my dad just said, "That's just not going to happen." And I took offense at that. I was angry and ran out of the house. And I stopped being helpful on the ranch. I would do what I was told, but if I saw things that needed to be done, no.
Not going to go out of your way.
No.
Yeah.
So what was it like to have that for a son?
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't see that until that conversation. That's when I started to go, wait, what? I scratch my head.
That's my story. I mean,
yeah.
I got to a place where I thought that my dad had wronged me so much that it might have been months, it might have been longer. But if he whispered in my direction, no, I had a what do you call it, a contra? Like the meditation practice where you get a single phrase. Anyway, it said, "I hate you, leave me alone." But I would say it with more venom than that.
Wow.
He couldn't get a syllable out with me for a very long time.
Wow.
And then I go.
So you got to catch up with him again and again and again.
And then later I got to go, whatever my dad did, what's it like to have a son say that to you with such conviction? What's that like?
Yeah.
And that was the real miracle for me, reading Bonds That Make Us Free by Terry Warner, is the fact that I could forgive my dad seemed almost impossible, but that happened, right? But then I get halfway through that book and I was like, oh no, I owe him an apology.
Yeah.
And that, to me, I don't know that I've experienced a more shocking miracle in my life.
Yeah.
That I could go from complete conviction that he deserved my hate,
Yeah.
to
Oops.
I'll forgive you of all the things that you do to me, but I still see him as blameworthy because I see that I need to forgive him,
Yeah.
right? To, oh no, I owe him an apology. I had never even considered that was something that could or should or was like a thing. I'd never considered it. It was so startling.
Look, in my mind, there's a number of things that have gone viral in this world currently. And one of them is an understanding of forgiveness. If somebody's mistreated me, I have to go pronounce I forgive you to them, either in person or, in some
Sure.
space. But that's not what freed me. That's not what changed my life or relieved me of all that burden. In fact, I've never turned to my father and said, I forgive you. It had never occurred to me to say that. What occurred to me to do was apologize to him for hating and resenting him, exactly what the girl said.
Yeah.
That freed me. And that helped. I mean, it wasn't until, quite frankly, I didn't meet Terry Warner until 6 years later. I met him in 1978. And I started learning that stuff, but it was still a couple of years before I understood what he was talking about with forgiveness. And I went, oh, I know this experience.
Yeah, you had it intuitively from an oddly
So-
insightful young lady.
For me, I finally figured out that if I have resentful, blaming, victimized feelings, the solution is not to pronounce forgiveness on someone else, but to seek it for hating and resenting them.
Yeah, I think that's a thought I had. I had this question. I mean, reading Bonds That Make Us Free, there's a line which, even having spent a lot of time with, every time I read it, I go, boof. But we're angry with others, not because of their mistreatment of us, but because of our mistreatment of them.
Yeah.
And there's a subtext to that, or at least I see a subtext in that anger is never justified. And then I go, okay, so Arbinger proposes this idea that when I have a heart of war or I am angry, that I have betrayed something, a sense, something that I thought I should do, and that anger is a response to try and help me come to terms with or justify something that I did wrong in my values, right?
It's that, and there's another element to the anger, which is it's an intervention on others.
Hold that for me for 1 second. The thought that kind of fit for me, even when I couldn't see what I had done wrong, the betrayal, the sense I had not followed, at bare minimum, I failed to see their humanity.
Yeah.
And I had always done that wrong. I always saw somebody as deserving my hate. And that was a wrong.
Well, my culture, people I interact with, if they're having the same struggle, they're telling me that all the time.
Yeah.
So one of the things, I actually believe that, again, anger has something deeper to it.
Okay, yeah.
So I think there's two ways to be angry.
Well, that's interesting to me.
One way I'm angry and it'll objectify you.
Okay.
Another way I'm angry and I still see you as a person, really see you as a person. But I don't demean you, I don't dehumanize you in that. Now, I got to say this in passing, that's theory.
Well, I like
I don't
the
know that
theory.
experience.
I like the theory, but But here's why, you know, we like to play this game of you can do everything in two ways. Is there anything that you can't do?
Yeah. Can't rape someone and see him as a person.
Right. Like, what are the things that you can't do while seeing someone as a person? And we've even, I mean, the Anatomy of Peace even has this example of doing war while seeing your enemy
As people. Yeah.
So that's profound to me. You can do war while seeing others as people. To me, you know, what you just said, anger while objectifying others and anger while seeing you as a person. Well, if I see you as a person, I've never been able to hold on to what I experience and define as anger. And so to me, I've just never experienced out like heart of peace anger. And so I kind of wonder if maybe it's one of those things that can't be done to is just looking through my life and going, okay, give me one instance where
I can give you an example. It's not mine.
Okay, yeah, I want to hear it.
So a woman I know from Tucson, her name is Nancy Smith, she's a coach, and she was doing some work with the Native American tribes in and around Warm Springs, Oregon. And there's a Warm Springs tribe, and there's a couple other tribes. Well, they were has experienced for decades, sexual abuse, violence, incest, all kinds of troubling things. So she was there just with a shaman and a number of these women and their daughters. And she said I think she said they were together for 3 days or 5 days. I can't remember anymore. We'd have to ask Nancy. But she said, we talked through things, we learned, we struggled, we slowly. And she said on the evening of the third day, the shaman was having someone do the drumming. And we were just sitting there, and she said, all of a sudden, I could feel something changing in the group. And one of the women, wasn't even a tribal leader, just one of the women said, no more. And that became the drum beat. The next woman said, no more, no more. And she said, I felt this anger come literally out of the earth, up through me. And what I heard them say was, in other language, it would be, we will collude no more. We're going to be wiser. We're going to be smarter. We're not going to provoke them and give them justification for doing that to us. No more.
Tell me who that anger is directed at.
It wasn't anger at someone. It was anger at what had been happening. Does that make
I've
sense?
experienced that. I feel like I'm having that right now. I'm angry at the sadness that I see generating on both sides.
Each is feeling more and more justified.
And the suffering and the worthlessness of all these people putting so much heart and effort into doing what they think is right, but all it produces is more
of the same
hate.
Yeah.
Right? That angers me, but I feel like but I'm not angry at any of the people.
No.
And so maybe that's the disconnect. Like, I've never been angry at a person.
And so seen him as a person.
I haven't.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Now, here's the thing that I have found. I actually find that seeing people as people, when I'm able to do it, it rescues me from anger. But here's the thing that I've never been able to escape. And I think it might just be what it is to be alive and to love and to have relationships. I can escape anger. I can escape hatred. I can't escape sorrow.
Two ways to sorrow.
Yes. And I've experienced both of those. I know those two.
And you've escaped one, but not the other.
I've never, if I see somebody and I get where I have a heart of peace and I see them as a person, but I still see that they're doing things wrong and making mistakes, and they're doing things that make it difficult for us to connect and to have a relationship. And my heart is not at war, but I see that theirs is, and they're committed to that war. I don't care. Seeing them as a person frees me from hate and anger, but I'll feel sorrow in those moments. And it'll be sorrow that we can't be closer, and sorrow that they have to hurt the way I become very obsessed with their hurting. I think about my sorrow for loving them and seeing someone I love hurt. And I become very obsessed with their sorrow.
Yeah.
And with their hurt.
I've become concerned, yeah. And I don't tend to find myself obsessed, but I'm concerned.
Sure.
It's interesting, in our culture, in the Judeo-Christian culture, mostly the Christian culture, I'm a believer in Christ. So I read the Bible, King James Version. And whenever I've had a discussion with people, often they resort to, well, Jesus was angry when he cast out the money changers at the temple.
So, yeah, the way you interpret it, I'm sure. Anyway, the way some people interpret it.
Well, no, it's actually interesting. What I asked them to do is, would you be willing to sit with me and read all four? That's talked about in each of the four Gospels. Can we read each episode?
Sure, right.
We read each episode, and I said, now what emotion do you see described there? No emotion's ever mentioned.
Oh, fascinating. Oh, fascinating. But he chased them out.
Does chase him out.
And he uses...
Now think of it.
Yeah.
He also chased Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden. They were kicked out. Do you see him being angry in that episode?
Yeah, I've always experienced him as deeply loving them and creating a path for them to walk the path they were on. And walking that path with them every step of the way.
I think that we think he's angry with those who are the money changers in the way we get angry is projection.
Yeah.
That reveals me, not
You can't
him.
chase somebody out with a whip and do it with a heart of peace, but are you sure? Like,
I'm convinced you can.
right.
It's just that I'm not there yet fully.
Oh, yeah.
I'm working on it.
So, you know, I guess, and of course, if you have something you want to share, but in closing, you know, this felt very heavy to me. Like seeing this in our community and in our nation. And
So close to home.
yeah. And seeing, man, it was just such a jarring visualization of how much suffering is happening, right? And it felt very heavy. And
Actually,
here,
what's interesting is it's heavy. There's no way around that. But when you talk about how each group is fomenting this, that's even heavier for me.
oh yeah, that was the thing.
Now we have thousands, millions engaged in that.
And they're engaging in a way that feeds hate. And that's the thing, like, to pay attention to, when you have an interaction of any kind, what was the end result? Did you feel closer,
More understanding?
deeper, better, more at peace? Or did you feel more hurt, more anger, more alone? And do you have a say in that? Was that done to you and you just walk through life and absorb the things that others do to you?
That's the equanimity again.
Right.
Because they're different for me. That when I have the heart at war, the way I experience what you do, I'm uptaking it in a way. An event or a state has meaning for us emotionally and psychologically only according to the meaning we assign to it.
Right.
That's the work of Soren Kierkegaard and others, that I'm not a direct victim of what we call speech-informed action. Sorry, philosophical term. But those are the emotions or feelings with a judgment. We're making assessments all the time about things. They're different than actual physical action. So if I push you or I slug you, you'll feel that. But how you feel about me doing that
very variable
is something you do. You uptake that. And if I take offense, the way I uptake it is to say, you were wrong to do that. You've trespassed my rights, and you need correction. You need instruction. You need to be fixed. You need to be changed in some way. And so that's what my expressions are about. I'm letting you know how much you've angered, irritated, frustrated me. That's why I call them an intervention. But that's always fascinated me, that I uptake things so often as already making some emotion happen inside me.
Yeah, it's like a preset response.
It's a habitual. I've so long to. In fact, I'm so often carrying around that heart at war, that inward mindset, that I'm sort of preloaded stepping into new situations. I'm already prepared to take offense. I'm already prepared to be wounded yet again.
Yeah.
I am, as Warner once described me, a missile-seeking target.
And it's just that question, and I think it's a good question, and I kind of like to ask it openly, not like I have the answer, but are we the authors of our life, or are others the author of our life? And
that's certainly the question that Viktor Frankl wrestled with.
Yeah, in that concentration camp after his family had been murdered. Yeah. And maybe, or is it sometimes one and sometimes the other?
Well, he didn't have a family going forward. There are atrocious things that happen, but what they never could take from him was his capacity to choose how he would feel about what they were doing. That's the way I read it.
Yeah. And he's an excellent example that argues always. It may be difficult often, but the truth is, you are the author. You get to pick. Do I carry hate, anger, victimhood? Or do I carry peace, love, curiosity?
So it's, I'd want to describe that a little bit differently.
Please.
Can I draw?
Oh yeah, let's do it. Okay, go ahead and draw for us.
So I've often felt that in the books, the Leadership and Self-Deception, The Anatomy of Peace, we kind of describe that act of self-betrayal a little bit inaccurately, just because it's really challenging to figure out how to say it, okay? But it has to be a unitary act. It can't be a two-part act. So I'm not picking between should I get angry, should I love? It's not that sort of thing. So Terry would talk about the sense we have. Well, I'm terrible. We'll read people. We read people. We see how they stand, how they look, their jaws clenching, they're frowning, their whatever. We have a lot of experience reading people and their emotions. Most of us. Some people have a struggle with that. Just ask Temple Grandin. So even as I see that, for example, let's say I hear the cries of the baby, and I have a sense to get up and tend to the baby so my wife won't have to and she can get her much needed rest. Well, the very way I experience that is either I'm already yielding to it, I'm already about it, or the very way I uptake that is I'm already resisting that. I can't spell.
Right.
So the very way I experience the call of others, because they're calling to us so much of the time, is I'm either doing this or I'm doing this or this.
Yeah.
But it's something inside me that is making sense of that, is having a sense about that. It's a living sense that I have with others. I would respond differently to you than I ever would a mannequin or a model on the wall. That guy back there behind you. So whatever it is, whatever I'm seeing and I'm taking note of, I'm either already giving myself, and look, this can change from moment to moment, but I'm either up taking it this way and I have all the justifications writ large in it, or I'm taking it this way and I'm figuring out how to, and what else I could be helpful with next.
I'm in a place where I yield to my senses to do what's right, or I'm in a place where I resist them.
I'm used to resisting some and yielding to others.
Yielding to some relationships, but resisting others.
Yeah, so there's some things in certain, like with certain of my children or certain people I know, there's things that I can feel myself wary and I'm leaning away from this person or that person because of how they're dressed or how they're in life and that sort of thing. Or I'm already curious and I'm leaning in instead of pulling away.
Yeah.
So when you talk about that moment, when I'm in the moment, I'm already carrying around a heart at war around certain things. So I would say it this way. Ask me, what percentage of my time do I have a heart at peace?
Yeah, what percentage?
100% of the time. Now ask me, what percent of the time I have a heart at war?
Is it 100%?
It's 100%. That in my life, if you were to talk about somebody or some topic,
you're connected to a war there
already, and I'm carrying it with me.
But before I brought the topic up, you could have been me and you just so peaceful.
That's right. And then you idiot fool for bringing it up. How could you? Well, I'm out of here. Trounce, trounce, trounce.
Right. So in every moment, we are both of those people.
Yeah. It just depends on
which is interesting.
Who those others are that I'm at war with or I'm at peace with, how they show up in those moments, either in my memory or in actuality, or somebody else brings them up. I'm carrying that stuff around. I'm either carrying a heart of peace around or I'm carrying a heart at war around in terms of those individuals.
And it's interesting to me because the people that, and the people that I look at and I'm inspired, not by their capacity.
You've gone orange. It might be your battery.
Yeah, maybe we're getting low on battery. We can just keep going and got what we got.
Okay.
But the people that inspire me, in not in their perfection of being out of the box, but in their attempt.
What does that mean? Out of the what?
Thank you. Yeah. Their ability to have a heart of peace at all times, right? But there are people that inspire me. I see them working very hard to try to do it, right? What's interesting to me is they seem to work very hard to stay connected to the fact that they're flawed and not better than others. And it's interesting as you talk about this, I'm actually, even in moments when I feel a heart of peace, and I feel like I'm seeing my world and the people around me as people, I'm still that person that is completely capable of being at war.
In fact, I had a nuance there.
It keeps you from thinking you're better than others, and it does a lot of other things for you.
What you just added to me, or reminded me of, in this, whoever's present to me and me. Because if I'm carrying around a view of myself as less, that I'm pathetic, I'm not enough, I'll never be enough, I'm a loser. If I'm carrying around those, or I'm a victim, or I'm better than others, I'm the smartest guy in the room, whatever that is that I'm carrying around about me also will have me be really if I'm having those kinds of views of me, I'm already resistant to others.
And to me, like it speaks to me of the complexity of it, because there's a right way to think good of yourself. And there's a right way to think less, or like to be connected to your flaws.
Yeah, for me...
and there's a wrong way, and you kind of landed all the wrong ways of both of those. Like, I'm better than others, or I'm a piece of garbage.
So it's the same thing. If this is me, if I'm seeing you as a person, then we're equally human. We're on the same ground, right? And you matter. You matter like I matter. Both of us matter.
Right.
Okay? And it doesn't mean I see you as a good person. I see you as a person capable of really good things all the way down to really bad things, as I am capable of really good things.
Of the entire breadth of humanity.
And so when I'm here and I do something wrong, that's how I experience it. That was wrong for me to do.
Right.
If I get a heart at war and now it gets distorted and I think you're either above me or you're beneath me, now when I do wrong, it's proof that I am wrong.
Right.
So carry that around. And it just makes, everybody has to walk on eggshells around me. I'm so uncomfortable to be around.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm also the guy who's the provoker in the situations, that's what's emanating from me. It was interesting. I started watching the Jason Momoa thing about the guy who's uniting the Hawaiian Islands centuries ago.
Chief of War.
Chief of War.
Yeah.
And I guess it's his wife who says, you wear your feelings. She has this beautiful piece where she says, you don't even have to speak. We all know what you feel. We all know what you're thinking. But that's true of all of us. Very few can hide that successfully. And quite frankly, they proudly conceal it. But for most of us, we can sense how others feel about us. And we tend to respond to how we feel they feel about us.
Yeah.
And instead of that place of peace and equanimity and curiosity, then I can see that and wonder about it.
Right. You talk about this, I do wrong and I have a distorted view of myself.
Yeah.
So instead of it, I did wrong, I am wrong.
I am wrong.
Right. Right here. Right.
Yeah.
And it's making me think, last week I had, I don't know, maybe I've had worse, but this is, in this moment, just the worst session I've ever had with anybody. And this young man, 21, deeply, profoundly suicidal. And I was carrying things in my personal life, which made it hard for me to be there the way I wanted to. And so I think part of it was that, and then the other part was so deeply convinced that he is not worth anything. That
he
I couldn't.
is.
He's convinced of that.
Well, that's his job. Yeah.
And
He works at it.
yeah, it's his job. He works at it. Yeah. And I couldn't breach his defenses. They were, and problem. Sometimes I think I'm good at this. And I couldn't find a thread or a way in to help him grab a hold of possibly I'm okay, right? Possibly. And in this moment, I guess next time I talk to him, a question I want to ask him is, who do you think's right? Like, your parents don't experience you this way, and I don't experience you this way. Who do you think is right?